Hello, good evening and welcome to the Friday edition of News 360 live from our studio here at Adesawe Kanda in Accra. I am Martin Asiedu-Dartey.
And I am Ayisha. Yakubu coming up in the bulletin this evening.
News 360 headlines is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint,
Pepsodent Charcoal and Pepsodent Herbal,
EcoBank.
Minority demands response from President Mahama and Attorney General on suspended Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu's impeachment concerns.
Also coming up, Ghana Meteorological Agency warns fishermen of dangerous sea conditions from June 27 to July 1, advising caution.
Vice President Professor Jenano Pokuajiman urges female MPs to mentor young girls for responsible citizenship in their constituencies.
Later in business, the Bank of Ghana warns public against 10 unlicensed money transfer operators in forex and remittance market.
And in international news, World Bank warns of extreme poverty rising rapidly in conflict-affected economies, urging global support and targeted reforms urgently. Well, the details of these and many more stories, including sports and entertainment, coming up over the next 1 hour. Stay with us.
We're starting from issues regarding politics, and the Center for Democratic Development, CDD Ghana, and Transparency International are calling for the amendment of the Political Parties Act 2000, Act 574, to regulate the financing of electoral campaigns. This move, they say, is essential to ensuring transparency and accountability among political parties and candidates and to curb corruption in the electoral process.
How political parties are funded has long been a concern for civil society groups, many of which continue to push for reforms to the current law. Research conducted by the Center for Democratic Development, CDD Ghana, estimates that a presidential candidate requires approximately $100 million to run a viable campaign, while parliamentary candidates need about 4 million Ghana cedis. These steep costs often attracts financing from illicit sources, fueling vote buying and unethical campaign practices. To combat these issues and curb the misuse of state resources by incumbent parties, Executive Director of the Africa Center for International Law and Accountability, ASILA, William Nyakun, has called for a comprehensive legal and regulatory overhaul of the Act.
It's important that we regulate political parties and, of course, candidates, particularly when it comes to the sources of money, of financing for them. Our current legal framework, taken from the Constitution and also the Political Parties Act, it's seriously unfit for purpose. When an election period is open, it's defined in law. So in Ghana, there is no defined period. And as you know, in Ghana, as soon as the election ends, the losing candidates or the parties will start campaigning. That raises the cost of politics.
Director of Strategy and Research at the Office of the Special Prosecutor, Samuel Apiadako, revealed that the OSP is currently reviewing the sanctions regime around corruption-related offences.
We are of the opinion that the current system where the Electoral Commission is both a referee and a regulator must be abandoned. Ghana should explore the establishment of an independent political party finance audit committee. We also agree that we must amend the Political Parties Act for it to cover the spending and expenditure of presidential and parliamentary candidates. We were thinking that is it possible that we could have somewhere within our architecture where any donation will require that a tax is paid on, similar to like a gift. We are looking at also an amendment of the Political Parties Act to state clearly that internal party politics is public elections. It's time for us to really look at the punishment for corruption. There's a clear demarcation as to what is corruption by the OSP, as well as other financial crimes, which are still largely in the realm of corruption.
Deputy Chairman of the Electoral Commission in charge of corporate services, Dr. Bosman Asari, also emphasized the need for the establishment of a compliance unit to ensure political parties adhere to provisions of the Political Parties Act.
As far as our laws are concerned, political parties are enjoined to do certain things right, but the reality appears to be different. The Commission has also set up a compliance unit within our legal department. And the job of this particular unit is to ensure that the political parties are complying with all the requirements stated in the political parties law as well as in the Constitution. We intend introducing a new CI which will be more stringent than what we currently have.
The growing chorus for amending the Act reflects a broader demand for fairness, peace and integrity in Ghana's political landscape.
Right, so let's stay on this subject a while longer. Madam Mary Ada is the Executive Director for the Ghana Integrity Initiative. She's joined us for a conversation. Madam, good evening. Thank you for joining us on News 360.
Good evening, Martin, and good evening to your cherished viewers.
Right, to start with, have we been able to establish a correlation between regular political activism and activities and corruption? There almost always seems to be the opinion, mostly in the public, that politicians are corrupt, for which reason political activities sometimes are seen as corrupt practices. But have we been able to establish whether there are any linkages?
Thank you very much, Martin. The fact remains that research over time has documented that where there is an opportunity for activities that are not documented and then there is money, excessive money entering into that process, the likelihood of corruption happening is great. And so we say in the arena of campaign financing, because of the weak link between issues around electoral integrity and then the issues around the campaigns themselves bring about what we say are the corruption risk elements. The risks arise because of the potential that people see in the issues around politics. And I'm not saying, or we are not by this saying that every politician is corrupt. But then the problem is that the risk factors or the vulnerabilities in the system make it very difficult for anybody to prosecute a campaign that does not feed on these vulnerabilities. And so, for instance, CDD in the past has documented this and tells you for an MP, you need close to about 60 something, almost 70,000. And for a presidential candidate, you need $100 million, sorry. And so, if we need such money to be able to prosecute the agenda, the questions we should be asking ourselves is what's the origin of this money? What's the source of the money? How are we getting this money? And then when we go to look at then our regimes around the law, then the potential for money to be gotten from other sources, either than the legitimate ones, come up. And when that happens, there is a serious correlation between the monies that come in, because we have a weak legislation, and then also the effect of it after the elections are conducted. So clearly before the elections, if those who are giving us dirty money, as we call it, fund our campaigns, then the resultant factor is the fact that that person who has funded you would expect something in return. And this is usually fueled in the contracts, and so we facilitate, we grease people's palms to continue to do what we want. So there's a clear linkage in this case when you trace from pre to during and to post-elections.
Right. And I'm sure it's on the back of that Ghana as a country, we've promulgated laws to, put in some checks and balances. Specifically, what are the loopholes we have seen in Act 547, for instance, that, we want to review or change?
So one of the weaknesses we have spoken to is the fact that there is no cap or limit in how much one would give. And that is a big one. If you look at the American system, you look at what happens in other areas, other countries in Africa, where they have campaign finance regimes, these are clearly mapped out. So it is important that our law does that. Again, the law does not demand compliance from the candidate. So the presidential candidate and the parliamentary candidate can secure resources which would not be documented, and for that matter, would not need to be audited.
Right.
So the parties can then file their returns, and you do not have the full picture of what it is. And then again, who donates? The law says Ghanaians, but then it also gives room for corporates. And so it means that there are a lot of things that happen within that regime which are not supposed to. And we all know that practically this has happened. Okay. And then the regulator functioning in the current law is not as robust as we would want it. And that's why we are currently calling on that there are reviews. But you see, one of the good things we want to see going into the process is the fact that we have an opportunity through the constitutional review process to ensure that we strengthen that, but also ensure that we have a campaign finance bill or law that will deal with the specific issues we are seeking to.
Madam Mariada, pleasure talking to you as always. Thank you so much for your time this evening. She is the Executive Director of the Ghana Integrity Initiative.
Moving on, the Administrator of the Minerals Development Fund, MDF, Dr. Hannah Louisa Bisiu-Kote, says her family is being threatened because of her recent fight against illegal mining. However, she remains resolute in extricating affected communities. William Evans Sinkum has filed the following report from the Ashanti region.
Here at Atetemu in the Danse Asqua district, these kids live in a very deplorable state. However, behind their school is a mine. Ounces of gold move in tons from this illegal mining sites. The dangers obvious. Illegal miners destroy arable land without mercy. Vicious destruction to the environment and livelihood. Every line of the Galamsey conversation speaks horror and vulnerability. Initiation of the next generation, and that is quite concerning. Now, beyond the destruction of arable lands, we are seeing just a total neglect of humanity, a total neglect of environmental preservation, a total neglect of livelihood, a total neglect of aquatic life, a total neglect of future consequences. 17-year-old Benjamin has left school to learn how to operate excavator.
Answer me machine frame say mission and you know say on gem say bia nipa we dey na say it's no boss na watch machine po adwane.
Enoch is 20 from the Upper East region. He's a school dropout. Anti-illegal mining campaigners are indiscriminately threatened. The family of the administrator of the Minerals Development Fund has seen much of these threats.
On the internet and put the pictures of my husband, and they send them to my inbox and send all kind of messages. The only thing I always say that, you see, it's only a coward who threatens. Grew up in Cuba, and they say, Patro muerte venceremos. Is the motherland or death we win hasta la última gota de sangre, to the last drop of blood. And
systemic leaks are adversely affecting the anti-galamsey operation. The horror of illegal mining continues to spread at a fast rate, despite efforts by government to nip it in the bud.
On to some other stories now. Fishing in Ghana's territorial waters from today, Friday, the 27th of June, could pose serious dangers due to a sudden change in weather conditions at the sea. The Ghana Meteorological Agency is therefore cautioning especially inexperienced fishermen against venturing out during this period. Yes, a report by Stanley Niblu.
The alert issued by the Ghana Meteorological Agency is based on changing weather patterns that are expected to make sea conditions increasingly turbulent between June 27 and July 1. During this period, wave heights are expected to exceed 2.5 meters, a level officially categorized as dangerous. The Ghana Meteorological Agency has divided the situation into 3 wave level categories, indicating that zones with wave heights between 0 and 1.5 meters are considered calm. 1.5 to 2.5 meters are classified as rough, and waves above 2.5 meters are deemed dangerous for sea activities. The group most vulnerable to these changing conditions are artisanal fishermen, whose small boats and limited equipment make them less resilient in rough waters. According to head of the Marine Weather Forecasting and Numerical Weather Prediction Unit at the Ghana Meteorological Agency, Asiedu-Dartey, only skilled and experienced fishermen should consider venturing out during this time.
The dangerous state was from mid-morning, that is early morning, that is 12 o'clock, up to midday today, 12 o'clock. That was where we were expecting to get the dangerous state. Now it has declined into the region of roughness, or to rough. For the rough, many of them can still go for fishing, depending on their experience. But from 2.5 upwards, that's the dangerous zone, they don't go at all. So we always advise that they should be listening, or they should be checking the forecast before they leave for fishing.
At Jamestown, a key fishing community in Accra, some artisanal fishermen acknowledge the warning, but express doubt about their ability to comply, citing economic pressures. One fisherman, Eko, shared his perspective.
We have no choice in the matter. Fishing is our livelihood. Even when the sea becomes rough, we still go out because if we don't, we can't provide for our families. If the government wants us to stop fishing during the season, then it must be prepared to support us throughout that period.
Others said they rely on traditional science and ancestral knowledge to determine safe fishing conditions before setting out.
When the sea turns rough, it's often visible from the shore, usually indicating an approaching storm. If we are already at sea when the storm hits, we drop an anchor and take shelter until the weather calms down before continuing our expedition.
While the warnings from the meteorological experts are clear, adherence may be hindered by the harsh economic realities faced by artisanal fishing communities. Nonetheless, the Ghana Meteorological Agency is urging all coastal fishers to prioritize safety over survival, stressing that no catch is worth a loss of life. Authorities are also encouraging local leaders and fisheries associations to help disseminate the warning and protect lives at sea. Stanley Niblew, TV3 News, Accra.
Let's turn our attention to other stories this evening. Daniel Ofori has issued a formal statement addressing the recent media engagement by the suspended Chief Justice Gertrude Torkornoo, in which she publicly discussed the content of his petition for her removal and the ongoing proceedings. Ofori noted that the Chief Justice is acting in clear breach of the provisions of the 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, which requires the inquiry to be in camera. Daniel Ofori says that despite the alleged falsehoods in his statement, he respects the constitutional process and the committee overseeing the case. Quote, as a law-abiding citizen and out of respect for the constitutional process and the committee, I will not seek to go on the path of the suspended Chief Justice, not even to correct plain falsehoods in his statement, unquote. He further pledged to engage the public only when it is constitutionally and legally appropriate to do so. He concluded with the words, truth stands.
And in a related development, the minority in Parliament is calling on President John Mahama and the Attorney General, Dr. Dominic Ayine, to urgently address concerns raised by the suspended Chief Justice, Madam Gertrude Torkornoo, regarding her ongoing impeachment proceedings. According to the member of Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee, Madam Torkornoo deserves to receive the notice of prima facie before appearing before the committee bearing her case. There's more in this report by Christian Yali.
Ghana's suspended Chief Justice Gertrude Arabe Saba Saki Torkornoo earlier in the week accused the current administration of masterminding a process to remove her from office. Gertrude Torkornoo vowed not to resign amid what she described as unconstitutionality against her. For Menchia South MP Nana Eje Bafwewa, the rights of Gertrude Torkornoo have been breached.
If the government communicators who are not at the heart of this matter have the prima facie determination, but the Chief Justice, who is supposed to respond to them, does not have them, are we being fair to the Chief Justice? She should have at her disposal everything necessary to defend herself. And in the absence of it, I think that the whole process has been undermined. In the absence of it, the process lacks integrity.
He wants the Attorney General invited to Parliament to answer urgent questions on the matter.
The Attorney General should be speaking to these matters. I think that the President, very respectfully, who has taken an oath to defend and protect the Constitution of this country, including the fundamental human rights, should be worried and should be concerned. And in law, there's an obligation to give a reason for a position. It's a basic right of the Chief Justice for her to know the case or the parts of the complaint which the President considers that she has a case to answer. That is a basic principle of law.
Honourable members,
Proceedings on Friday took an interesting turn when members of the minority rose to protest the adoption of the business statement for the week ending Thursday, 3rd July 2025. They say their concerns were not properly captured and addressed.
such an important exercise on a Friday like this cannot be limited by any rule or practice. In this Parliament, any matter discussed for the purposes of shaping governance is relevant. Allow members to make their input.
The majority leader, Mahama Yariga, intervened and made an appeal.
We've all agreed among ourselves that on Fridays we'll do some small politics. That's a common understanding. I'm pleading with my colleague, the minority leader, that the protest has been adequately registered. We can take that on board next Friday.
Some ministers have been programmed to appear before the House in the ensuing week to provide updates from their sectors. Christian Yali, TV3 News, Parliament.
And now to one of our headline stories. The Vice President, Professor Jenan Opoku-Agyeman, has charged female members of Parliament to encourage and mentor young ladies and girls in their respective constituencies to ensure they grow up to become responsible citizens. The Vice President was speaking when the female MPs paid a courtesy call on her at the seat of government.
Female members of parliament from both sides of the House called on the Vice President, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, at the Jubilee House. The MPs were elated because, according to them, it's a meeting that has been long overdue. Their message was to formally congratulate the Vice President as the first female to have assumed that position in Ghana and also to pray with her. Chairperson of the Women Caucus in Parliament, Comfort Doyo Kujo, and Vice Chairperson Patricia Appiagyei indicated their resolve to stand with the Vice President at all times and support her to succeed.
Ever since a woman ascended to the Vice Presidency, the tone, texture, and temper of governance have visibly shifted. There is a new spirit of compassion, empathy, and balance in our national discourse. We say this with all sincerity.
It was only last year, July, that we passed the affirmative action law. If we are here, we can't just overlook it, but rather draw your attention to the fact that the implementation of the law is very crucial. As a mother of this house, we are all your children, and we are going to support you. Your delivery as a vice president will be one that is exceptional, one that is unprecedented. And that's why we've come together as a group to encourage you, to support you, and also to tell you that we are very proud of you.
Vice President Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman was grateful for the gesture and urged the MPs to pay attention to the growth of young girls in their constituencies.
We are very proud of the numbers we have now. 40 is not a joke. And you all know what it takes first to put yourself out, to sustain the momentum, and to get there. So you've done very well. We are very proud of you. And for me, the important point is, so now that we are here, what are we doing with the opportunity? It cannot just be for us. It can be unto us as how we use that opportunity to bring others up. We can focus on the young ladies. There are enough in our constituencies that we can build up. But at the same time, we're also looking at the young children, boys and girls. We are mothers to everyone.
The visit concluded with a renewed commitment to collaboration and a shared vision to promote women's empowerment and development in the country. Evelyn Tenkma, TV3 News, Accra.
Now, government is set to roll out the human papilloma virus, which is known as the HPV vaccination, to prevent the cause of cervical cancer. Speaking at the Global Vaccine Alliance for Immunization Roundtable in Brussels, Health Minister Kwabena Minta Kando said the government is targeting to prevent not less than 80,000 cases of cervical cancer.
September 2025, we are going to roll out the HPV vaccines, which of course we are projecting that we are going to prevent not less than 80,000 cases of cervical cancer. Saving more than 45,000 of lives and saving tens of millions of dollars in our economy. So at this point, we believe that we don't only want to wait till vaccines reach us, we must begin to manufacture vaccines in our country. We have the strong legal framework, regulatory framework. Our FDA, Food and Drugs Authorities at maturity level 3. We have a very strong National Vaccine Institute and a vibrant pharmaceutical industry. Fortunately enough, two of the leading players in the pharmaceutical industry have positioned themselves ready to produce vaccines in the country. DEK and Atlantic Life Sciences. We in Ghana believe that if you invest in vaccination.
Still watching News 360 on TV3. Stay with us. We'll be back with the latest in the world of business.
Thank you for staying with us. It is business time. Menu, welcome.
Thank you, Ayisha.
What do you have for us?
Well, Bank of Ghana is warning us against some 10 unlicensed money transfer operators in Ghana. We have
let us know them then.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the business segment on News 360. I am Menu Aful. The central bank has issued a strong caution to the public and financial institutions to immediately stop transacting with 10 unapproved money transfer organizations operating within the country's remittance and foreign exchange markets. The central bank says these firms are operating without the required licenses and have therefore breached Ghana's foreign exchange laws.
The Bank of Ghana is cautioning the general public and financial service providers against dealing with 10 money transfer organizations, MTOs, it describes as unlicensed and operating illegally in Ghana's forex and remittance space. A statement released by the central bank lists the unapproved firms as Ace Money Transfer, Remit Union, Remit Home, Rose Remit, Monty Global, NairaGram, iTransfer, HuruPay, Eversend, and EasySend. According to the bank, the operations of these firms violate provisions of the Foreign Exchange Act 2006, which require all entities handling foreign exchange or cross-border money transfers to be licensed by the central bank. The Apex Bank is urging banks, dedicated electronic money issuers, and payment service providers to desist from doing business with the listed firms, warning that failure to comply may lead to severe sanctions, including license withdrawal. Meanwhile, approved MTOs are reminded to route foreign exchange flows strictly through their partner institutions and comply fully with operational guidelines. The Bank of Ghana says it will not hesitate to take action against any institution in breach of these regulations.
In more news tonight, financial economist Dr. Eric Boakye-Yiadom has called on governments to implement measures that will shield Ghana's economy from future global economic shocks. He cited the adverse impacts of global shocks on the country's exchange rate, inflation, and fuel prices.
To mitigate risks associated with external shocks, Dr. Eric Boakye-Yiadom urged the government to prioritize fixing Tema Oil Refinery, emphasizing its importance in protecting the economy from global vulnerabilities.
What we need to learn, especially from oil, is to ensure that the Tema Oil Refinery is working effectively so that the oil that we are mining here, we can process it. If we're able to process oil, it means that we have reduced our dependency on volatility of oil prices in the international market. There has been a ceasefire. How long would that be? Are they going to go back? Will it be implemented? Will there be peace? We cannot continue to build an economy dependent on externalities.
The senior lecturer at the University of Professional Studies, Accra, has also called on government to demonstrate commitment to incentivizing mass production and adoption of green energy, particularly solar power, to diversify Ghana's energy mix.
There is a policy inconsistency in that at one hand, the government is trying to promote an agenda, but at the fiscal side, we don't see the support. If we want to see green transition happening, then we need to ensure that, number one, the fiscal side, there's a tax incentive to encourage people to bring in solar or build local industries to be able to manufacture this solar system, and also provide an incentive system that help people to acquire solar energy and other renewable energy systems.
And now, after 6 decades of incredible banking, Agricultural Development Bank has unveiled a new identity and tagline from truly agric and more to beyond banking. The bank is also poised to competing aggressively to be among the top 3 banks globally, admired for its people, processes, and performance.
Founded by Act of Parliament in 1965 as the Agricultural Credit and Cooperative Bank, the National Liberation Council (NLC) Decree 182 in 1967 changed the name of the bank to Agricultural Development Bank. Over the years, the bank has expanded beyond lending full support to agricultural value chain, financing farming, processing, and trade. ADB has revised its vision, aiming to be among the top 3 banks in Ghana and to be admired globally for its people, processes, and performance. Managing Director Edward Atusapon describes it as a genuine demonstration of commitment and resilience.
It is time to reposition ourselves properly to fight and fight well in this competitive environment. From today, we want to be very aggressive, no longer timid. We want to go out as lions, and lions roar. So from today, I want to encourage all of us that you are not sheep, you are not lambs, you are what? Lions.
Aligned with its new 60th anniversary tagline, Beyond Banking, ADB aims to reinforce its identity as more than a lender, highlighting its advisory, trade facilitation, and technical support services.
ADB will pride ourselves as perhaps the second largest bank by branch network, or the third largest bank by branch network, because the other bank was an amalgamation of many other banks. But with 89 branches and about to open our 90th branch in a few weeks' time, we can say that we have come of age.
ADB also held a prayer meeting to acknowledge the immense role of the creator in its 6 decades of banking excellence.
Let's now look at how the cedi is faring against other major trading currencies and how some of our key commodities are also faring on the global market. And that's how we wrap up business tonight on News 360. I am Menu Afo. Stay with us. Sports news comes up next.
Sports now, and many young children dream of reaching the highest level in professional football, whether they are from big cities or unknown communities. Malice Mensah, who hails from Abume, a fishing village, is aiming to break the norm in his area. Bill Ishan tells the story.
This is Abume, a quiet village tucked away in Ghana's eastern region. At the break of dawn, many of its inhabitants head to the riverbank to fish. The community is especially known for its abundance of wevi, popularly called 1,000. In this riverside routine, children often follow in the footsteps of their parents, casting nets before heading to school. But 15-year-old Malice Mensah is charting a different course. His football journey began by chance, a casual invitation from a friend to play at a dusty community pitch a few years ago. It was there that something sparked. The game lit a fire in Malice, and it hasn't gone out since. From that day, the midfielder became a regular on the pitch, always seen with the football at his feet. His talent quickly became undeniable. Peers and older players alike took notice and encouraged him to keep going.
It's a game of life. I can't live without football. I always look up to Thiago Alcantara. He was a former Liverpool player. He plays midfield and then I'm also a midfielder. I want to play like him.
At home, his mother, Augustina Dablu, works hard to support her 3 children through a small fish trading business. She often encourages her older children to assist with fishing. But when it comes to Malice, she makes an exception. She sees something different in her last-born child, something she's willing to nurture, even if it means making sacrifices.
His attitude towards football is interesting. We're a community that engage in fishing here, but we don't allow him to fish because he loves football and it makes him happy. So we have allowed him to pursue that. We used to help him with anything we have that can push him forward before he got a manager that has taken him and is helping him. What we can do to help right now is to thank him for helping us.
In 2022, Malice's efforts bore fruit when he was scouted and admitted into the Dream Chasers Football Academy. Since then, he has grown into a pivotal player, controlling play from midfield and showing remarkable maturity beyond his years. His breakthrough came in 2024 when he caught the attention of the Black Starlets technical team, led at the time by Lai Kingston.
It was 3 regions, the Eastern region, Volta region and Greater Accra. So we went to Koforidua All Nation. And I must say, after the selection, it was 2 days program. Out of almost 500 players that came there were only 6 players who were picked, and he was number 1. And he was discovered by coach Nanajimai, current Vision FC head coach. But then he was assistant coach to Lai Kingston. And he is that kind of a person who always wants to do, he is trying to do something. He always wants to do that. He's not lazy, he trains all that. We are on break, but every morning I see him going jogging and other stuff.
Though he narrowly missed out on the final squad of the Wafu Zone B tournament that year, Malice left a lasting impression. Coaches and scouts see in him a player who has the potential to reach the highest levels of the game. Back in Abume, locals speak his name with pride. To them, Malice represents proof that even from a small fishing village, big dreams can be born.
He's very good. You have all the qualities that other players in abroad have. So we hope that when he also get there.
According to the way he normally play football, in fact, the guy have talent that we are all praising him to move further and further about the football.
Oh, I'm so much proud. I'm happy when I heard about Malice because coming from a fishing community with such a star, I'm excited having Malice from my community.
In a place where nets are usually cast for fish, Malice Mensah is casting his own for a unique opportunity. With every touch of the ball, he steps further away from the riverbanks of Abume and closer to stadium lights. His story is still being written, but one thing is certain: this young boy from a fishing village is chasing more than a dream. He's chasing destiny.
That's it for sports on News 360. Stay with us. We have the latest in entertainment coming up shortly.
And Napa Foods, Heaven Black Insecticide Spray.
Well, good evening. Let's get into some entertainment news updates here on News 360. My name is Noella Donko. Now, auditions for the 2025 Ghana's most prestigious culture and beauty pageant, Ghana's Most Beautiful, is underway in Accra. Now, the audition team earlier this week made stops in Kumasi for the Northern Sector auditions. Over 100 promising young ladies visited the audition venues to represent their region in this year's competition.
The race for the crown of Ghana's most beautiful has officially begun. Scores of hopeful young ladies gathered at the premises of TV3 Network Limited to participate in this year's audition. The aspiring queens entered the audition room determined to justify their place in the competition. The ladies demonstrated impressive eloquence and confidence, doing their best to convince the panel of judges. Contestants say they are fully prepared and confident of making it through the selection process.
I chose to represent Eastern Region in Ghana's most beautiful because I believe that this platform is a platform that equips and develops ladies and puts them to flight. Ladies who have purpose, who have dreams, who have goals to change the society. And I believe that I have all these qualities to be able to be put to flight by GMB platform.
Actually, I was just scrolling on Instagram and I saw how Queen Titiaka spoke, so I was motivated to take part this year.
I believe Ghana's most beautiful embodies a lot of things that an ideal woman should carry, and I've seen so far how much it has groomed and then built most of the ladies that go through the pageants. And so I believe that Ghana's most beautiful is the ideal pageant. That's why I'm here. I'm here to learn. I'm here to also contribute my quota into making Ghana a better place. And I'm also here for the sisterhood that it comes.
Speaking to one of the judges, she shared her thoughts on the caliber of participants this year and what the judges are looking out for.
9 years ago, I was in their shoes, auditioning to be chosen, and today I'm here judging. It's a very nostalgic feeling, but altogether very good. This year we have had beautiful ladies. We have had quality ladies who have studied and learned their culture, and trust me, the kind of quality that is coming into the house this year, it's unprecedented. It's going to be entertaining.
That's how we wrap up on the entertainment news segment here on News 360. My name is Noella Donko.
Let's now bring you some international news.
A report from the World Bank showed that the goal of ending extreme poverty around the globe remains elusive, partly due to compounding challenges faced by economies in fragile and conflict-affected situations, including food insecurity and weak government capacity. The report released on Friday by the World Bank calls on a scaling up of international support, debt relief and technical assistance at a time when the United States, the world's largest aid donor of the past decades, steps back. The U.S. Supreme Court has issued a 6-3 ruling that will curb judges' powers to block President Donald Trump's orders nationwide. Writing in dissent of the opinion, Justice Sonia Sotomayor says the Supreme Court's decision is an open invitation for the government to bypass the Constitution. The Supreme Court agreed this year to take up a trial of consolidated cases involving so-called universal injunctions handed down by federal district judges in Maryland, Massachusetts, and Washington state. Judges in those districts had blocked Trump's ban on birthright citizenship from taking force nationwide, which the Trump administration argued in their appeal to the Supreme Court was overly broad. Responding to the decision, President Trump called the decision a giant win, whilst Attorney General Pam Bondi says it will stop the endless barrage of injunctions against the president's agenda.
And that's it for our package this evening. Thank you so much for watching. I am Martin Asiedu-Dartey.
And I am Ayisha Yakubu. Enjoy your weekend.